Hey everybody, thank you for coming. I'm Lude Lloyd, joined by my glorious guildmaster and co-host, Anduin Kayvon. Anduin, how are you doing today?
Yeah, about a half cup.
A half cup. Also, you could probably move your mic a little bit closer.
Little bit closer, like this, or like
That's
this?
a little bit. Medium range. Medium range. All
Medium
right.
range. Okay.
Yeah. We also have a special guest and someone we definitely planned on having the show and didn't pull him up 30 minutes ago, AwakenedTitan. And yeah, as a fellow member of the Grey Legion, I would like to personally thank you for staying on your toes. How are you doing today? How did you feel about getting kidnapped in the middle of a guild activity?
I'm living on 2 hours in a dream. It was interesting enough just to have you guys pull me aside and then be like, hey, it's happening. I'm like, oh, it's happening. Okay, cool. Great. There.
Perfect. Yeah, I know. We were just like, so we were supposed to have a guest. Who do you think would be a good guest? And we just like looked in the people who are active. We're like, you want to just pick Titan? He does PvP, right? so we kind of grabbed you. But anyways, we are coming at you live from the ashes of the Gray. We totally rebranded, and the logo is a little bit placeholder for the minute. It's a lot of work to come up with a logo in a week time. So hopefully over a month we will actually have a real logo. And if you don't know, we are a guild called the Gray Sentinels, and we are an RP PvX guild for Ashes of Creation, and we're just here to talk about the game that is obviously very, very close to completion, and you should be expecting a release date probably sometime this month. But as a quick little disclaimer, this is a disclaimer. Ashes of Creation is not close to completion, and any statements made upon its imminent release is purely satire. Please listen with responsibility. Thank you very much, and have a nice day. Yep. So yeah, thank you for that. But as you may have noticed, we do have a guest here, and I would like to at first bring him in and kind of talk about him as well. So, Titan, why did you join the Gray Sentinels, and what are your hopes for when we launch the game, or even when we launch into Alpha 2?
Yeah, so my original reason for joining the Gray Sentinels, I was previously a member of Axiom. Shout out to you guys. And
we saw you from Vladis?
Yeah, you did, actually. Yeah, I just listened to an interview from Anduin, and I really enjoyed how he spoke about the game, how his vision for what the Gray Sentinels was.
Nice.
Reading the chat there. Yeah, and my hopes for the game is just to have a good, solid place for community and to really bring back the MMORPG games that I grew up with, or at least that feeling.
Mm-hmm. Just having a large community, right?
Exactly. Yeah, having a place that I know I can go to talk to talk to anyone.
Nice. Anduin, did you what made you recruit AwakenedTitan? Anything in particular?
Oh God, do I? Well, if I remember his application correctly, he said he wanted to PvP, and I was like, you know what? I like this guy already. So that was a boon for him. Another thing is, he did talk about my interview a little bit, and the reason why people who watch the interview stick out to me is it's because they take the time to research the guild, get to know what we're about, and if you're taking that effort, I think to me that says someone is worthy to be in the guild because they're going out of their way to watch an hour and a half interview. So yeah.
All right, and Titan, you have you've basically. Sorry, 1 second. Just wanted to make sure that Andrew, can you just speak one more time?
Yeah, hello.
Okay, sounded good. Chat. Anduin sounds good now. Still pretty low. Better. Still pretty low.
We go.
Okay.
I moved it closer to my mouth now.
Okay, here. I can do this real quick. Let's put everybody up.
I love those technical difficulties. These are great.
Hey, you know, I literally just changed my entire audio thing. So, just wanted to make sure that, you know, we're all good here. Titan, do you have A2? Did you mention that?
I actually have a beta key. I've been waiting to see more about A2 and everything, just so that I can make a more informed decision.
Mhm.
And then my goal is definitely to get A2 before we get get everything there.
Okay, so you have beta 2 and beta 1?
Correct.
Okay. Do you want to tell me a little about your character? I see you got like a little pie right there.
Yeah. Malian, or Mal, as anybody who knows him. It was a character that I had come up with after I had read the Sanctus RP like thing. I really wanted to go with a Pyri because I really thought that their architecture style and everything was really fit the kind of characters that I normally gravitate towards. More often than not, Malian is a guard. He's not like a high-ranking official or anything like that. Pending, we'll see.
Pending.
My story may change,
Yeah.
depending upon if certain things happen. But right now he's just a guard. He's not good at his job. He's not bad at his job. He is just another integral cog in the larger part of the Gray Sentinels.
Nice.
That's kind of how I wrote him. I wanted him to be basically an open book because I didn't know where I wanted to go with it.
Yeah, you're doing that like classic like D&D thing where your character isn't OP right at the beginning. Like he's got to grow, right? Like we start at level 1 when we enter Ashes, right? So it's like we have to move our characters in a progressive way. So I really like that character design choice. And I think I'm going to be doing something very similar. Definitely an edgelord background, but happy-go-lucky character. So that's my goal for mine at least.
Yeah, I tried to stay away from edgelord background. I normally gravitate that way. So my parents are still alive. -1. My dad is dead. That was the one thing that
-1.
-1.
Hey Lloyd, what are my thoughts on edgelord characters? Come on, you know.
I'm not inside your head. How am I supposed to know that?
Well, let me tell you, is when role-playing, if your character's parents are alive, you might be a unique individual, because everyone's parents are dead.
That is true.
Vlad used to be. I don't know, man. Always has been. Always will be.
I like being the hero. I gotta have a traumatic backstory, dude. Although, I mean, if you can make a story happen where you don't have a traumatic backstory and you become the hero and it's really good, props to you. You're a really good writer, and I appreciate that type of roleplay as well. Especially since people that tend to stray away from edgelord backgrounds tend to have a lot more experience in RP. Just generally speaking. So
yep, 10 years in D&D.
Yep. I've been playing for maybe 5 years, but I still hold on to that trope. I love it. But anyways, you are actually a voice actor. Do you have like anything that you like to voice particularly, or do you have like any sort of jobs that you tend to get?
Yeah. So my voice isn't like a normal protag kind of voice. So you'd expect it probably for like side character or something along the lines of an older brother kind of style. So that's kind of the like characters I tend to like move towards. I also like reading them more than anything else.
Nice. I know. Is that going to be like implemented into Ashes at all, or are you planning on doing like mostly like text chat roleplay type?
Oh,
thing?
absolutely. You're definitely gonna be in taverns and getting some VoIP RP as well.
Yeah, I actually have a topic on that later. So when we get to that, I definitely want to pick your brain on that.
Sure.
Like me, you've seen the King's Avatar, which is incredible anime. And for those of you that don't know, it's basically like a Chinese anime that is about the protagonist is basically Faker. He is just like the god gamer of like everything. And he goes through this MMO where they go through like level 1 to level 50. And then level 50 through 70 is like a hardcore PvP thing where like your loot drops if you die. There's still like major world bosses and stuff that you fight over. And it really feels like the vibe that Ashes is going for me, and I'm really really hoping that we can, you know, get as close to the King's Avatar as possible. Do you feel the same way about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Not only just because of the overall feel of the game and like how skill is more important than the equipment that you have or something along those lines, which I believe Steven has already mentioned multiple times, is that somebody with lower equipment can handle in a PvP situation somebody with lower skill. But also from the aspect of like esports, I think that MMORPGs are fantastic, like breeding ground for esports. It's something that we see a lot from like MOBAs, but we don't see anything particular for like for specifically like MMORPGs. And I think it's just because we don't have the right the right kind of vessel for it to be something that we can actually do.
Right. You're thinking like
But
3v3 arenas just isn't good enough for the esports level. Like there has to be more to it.
yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I definitely hold the same opinion. Do you think Ashes will ever get to the point where we become like an actual esport, or and if you don't think so, is it gameplay or business related?
I think it's always going to have to be on the end of business. I think Ashes in its current state, just from what we've seen, it's already extremely like interesting to watch things that happen. Like for everybody who has already seen the node stream, we've seen now what combat looks like, even in its like base form. And I was watching the entire thing, going, "Oh, it's gonna happen! Oh! Somebody saved him! Somebody saved him! That's insane!
Mm-hmm.
That guy was so gonna die." And then a
Yeah.
tank comes out of nowhere and walls a whole mess of damage.
Yeah, I definitely believe that it has the potential. There are definitely some big moments that could happen, especially with the way that the combat mechanics are definitely being implemented. Anduin, do you have any thoughts on this? On like Ashes and esports and the way forward for that, if any?
So I think esports will take like a different approach in Ashes. So like for one, you're going to have like the Coliseum and the arenas. So I think that the esports will be in those type of situations where, you know, it'll be an organized tournament that goes on within servers and less of like open world. So I think in that way, it can be kind of like, you know, oh, you're out and about living your life outside of the Coliseum, and then it's fight night. So you come over and, you know, do that. So, you know, I think that's how esports might take off in Ashes, but I do not think that they should, you know, change any like game philosophies or anything to esports, but just have it be a venue within the game that people can go to and experience esports. So I just think that's
Wait,
like the best route.
quick question. You haven't seen the King's Avatar, right?
Nope.
We will have to do a watch party because the way that they implement esports into that MMO is actually incredibly incredible, and I think it's really really smart. Obviously, it's done up in anime form, so it's not going to be exactly the same one for one, but like I definitely think it has the potential to use that kind of format into like implement that into Ashes of Creation in the future. But I think
I would. I
oh,
do
go
got to
ahead.
clarify something right now. Bergen
Hmm.
is a liar. Bergens' Miralith is the champs, and we all know that Winstead is the true winners of it. We were holding back. You can clearly see it. Just watch, Bergen.
There's a little bit of drama already happening, huh?
There's always drama when it comes to an MMO. It's what the lifeblood of players is.
Yeah, well, I think we'll have a little military
Go on,
conflict
go on.
or two with Dunheim here in the future, maybe. Or wait, no,
Well, see,
Bergen's the coin.
Bergen
He's the
has
coin.
the
He
iron
left.
coin.
The iron coin. Yeah. So, well, I don't know if we really want to pick a fight with clerics, do we?
No, I mean, why can't he be our friend?
I
Bergen's
feel like
good
equal
people.
rights, equal fights.
Yeah, we could have our pocket healers helping us out.
Exactly.
All right, but I think with everything said and done, I think we should probably move into the big meaty topic. I do not necessarily have a time length on this episode simply because there's so much shit to talk about. And since we're doing this monthly, I figured we're just going to talk about as much as we can. And I'll try not to hold us up too much, but like it is a chunky thing. Node Wars is such a big topic. So I really want to just kind of hit all the points. I don't want to rush us through anything. And I kind of just want to have like a natural conversation. So with that, I think we're going to go ahead and play this video in the background while we begin. So first things first, Anduin, your verbal NDA has been lifted on the Node Wars, and you can just basically talk about the tests 1 through 6, and how long was that testing period?
So I think we started back in April, maybe. I think
April? That's
April. It was later.
a good
April,
time left.
maybe.
That's a good time frame.
Yeah, and like as it kind of progressed, I really like to touch on the subject that the game was clunky in the beginning when we had all 100 of us fighting each other in the beginning, and you can clearly see, you know, Burgund, Phantom, and Ash and Harold could probably speak on this as well, but things got clean. Like it went from really buggy trash to it honestly felt like a game you could actually play and compete in, and it was fun by the end of it. So, I really am a big defender of the idea that, any doomers out there, I think it's a bunch of bullshit because
Mhm.
when it comes down to it is Intrepid puts their whole heart into when they're working on something. They fix what they can and they try to listen to whatever feedback people have. They're not some AAA studio that's soulless and just wants our money. So I'm all about them, progressing, and yeah. So yeah, it was a good time. I had fun. It was great to kill people. So
Right. So that's a pretty good time frame for a test length. And did you participate in all 6 of the playtests?
most of them, yeah. I think I only missed one of them, and it was the one right before this live stream one.
Okay. So you experienced all the different what classes did you play?
I played cleric, I played mage, I played fighter, and I played tank. I did not
Wow.
play ranger because ranger is just not my cup of tea. I don't really like to jump around and shoot arrows at people, so just not my thing.
Well,
But
damn it on my part.
yeah, I get. Well, I mean, it's some people like different classes. I know a lot of people who they don't like melee classes or they don't
Mhm.
like non-magical classes. So, like with me, I always play paladin type characters. So I'm always a frontliner with some sort of spell going on. But like what I can clearly state between all of the different classes is the classes have flavor now. Earlier on, they didn't have as much of a defined, thing. I mean, you played A1 Lloyd, so you absolutely know that the classes were just a couple spells and roll your face across the keyboard. Where
Yeah.
now they are getting their flavor. And also seeing how the various different systems with armors and weapons and stuff is, I can absolutely see how you're going to be able to play a tankier cleric, a more DPS focused cleric, etc. The same thing for every single class. So, I like the philosophy that Intrepid has when it comes to uh, character gearing. That it's just kind of whatever floats your boat. Um, and I'm kind of interested to seeing how things get fleshed out as it goes. So.
Awesome. Titan, what class are you intending to play, or have you picked yet?
I was probably thinking about going with either a summoner, rogue, or a fighter, depending upon what all comes. I know rogue isn't going to be in A2 for the first part of it, so I'll probably lean more towards fighter or summoner, depending upon how those really feel. But that's where I'm leaning right now. We'll see where I actually end up going later on.
Nice. I tend to, go towards like rogue, ranger, DPS type of things. But honestly, with Ash's archetypes, they're all looking pretty sick to me. Like, I might just go with whatever one feels the best whenever I start playing A2. I'm going to be literally alt rolling until I find out what I really like. I think that's probably the route I'm gonna go. Fighter looks badass. Ranger is very, very awesome so far. Mage, I could see a lot of potential with that. Bard is got me having high hopes. I'm probably less likely to play a cleric, but that's simply because I don't feel like they have like a ton of agency, but they are extremely necessary in a party composition. So, love my clerics out there, but I'm probably not going to be playing one of those.
I feel like cleric is definitely like a certain person, certain like type of people. Like if you play DPS normally and you enjoy that, I don't imagine you're gonna want to try to be you. You don't usually gravitate towards cleric because it's a lot of micromanaging. I would say.
Yeah.
Not to say that clerics can't beat booty when needed.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
definitely.
mean, so like with the tests, I first started with the cleric because, with my paladin background, I thought, why not? Those self heals are pretty nice. But then, the fighter preview came out, and let me tell you, fighter's a blast to play. It's kind of a glass cannon if you play it wrong, but it still claps. It's one of those classes that it's very mobile, does a ton of damage, and if you do not take it down right away and focus it, they're going to get into your backline and wreak havoc. So,
Wow.
but then I started playing the tank, and I didn't want to try the tank because last time I had tried the tank, it wasn't really all that great. But with the current build of the tank, it was actually a blast. There's so much CC going on. There's a lot of damage output. Not to mention that there's a lot of debuffs on the bars that you can do. So it's just, those classes really have a fun time. The mage in the current one, if you guys see oftentimes in the fights, you see mages blinking into battle and then doing some like a frost nova bomb thing they put off. It's really effective. It stuns people around them, does a bunch of frost damage. It's great. So like
Yeah,
stuff
yeah,
like
they
that.
do like blink in, like Frost Nova, Cone of Cold, and then Blizzard, and then they blink out or whatever.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, you kind of were touching on this a little bit, and I know a lot of these topics have already been covered in the community and may have already been beaten to death by a lot of people, but I think it's really important to cover a lot of perspectives. But you said you were talking about like how the tank was a lot more fun, and I noticed the tanks being absolutely insanely hard to kill. So what did you think about like the time to kill? Was that primarily because of clerics? Was it because the tank is just that tanky? Is there like different damage mitigation spells that you were using that would allow you to live for a very long time?
Yeah, I mean, as you saw, like in the video that's playing in the background, like you saw me on the front lines almost all the time fighting. I think in the whole fight, I think I died total of 3 times, and one of them was because I get ganked at the very beginning with Daedalus, and then the other one is later on when I get focused by Steven.
Hmm.
But like the big thing with tanks in this game is they feel a weight to them. You aren't going to be able to kill people very well by yourself. But if you team up with a DPS or a healer, you probably will crush anything that goes against you because you have those debuffs. Another thing is there are some skills that give you those buffs up that make you a little stronger, have some more survivability. Um, Not to mention, there's that wall skill. The wall skill is amazing because one, you can basically separate groups from each other, and you can separate tanks from their healers or DPS that overextend. You can trap them in, and then your DPS can run up and kill them. You can also use it to protect yourself. So, like, let's say your health goes down, you can put the well down. It intercepts attacks, and then you can pull back. So, like, I'm a huge proponent of how the tank feels right now. It feels as tanky as it should be. It is a threat on the battlefield, which is what makes it a target for PvP. Um, and honestly, I just think it feels good for how PvP should be. Because oftentimes when you see tanks in PvP situations in other games, you just ignore them. They can't do anything. They survive forever. They're just a distraction. Where
Hmm.
in this, they're CC heavy and they have a ton of debuffs. So if you don't hit them, they're going to end up being the death of your party because they're just going to debuff everyone and get everyone trapped. So yeah.
Very cool. Yeah.
It's awesome.
I actually did have a question about the ambush because since you brought it up, um, obviously that wasn't a scripted event or anything. That's all being done live. How did that catch you guys off? Like, does that seem like a viable tactic, or what led to just wanting to taunt them in front of their gates?
Well, let me tell you that Margaret and the rest of us definitely wanted to trash talk the other team, and they were not letting us show the text chat in it. But Winstead is the greatest trash talkers ever. We all know Miraluz is the true losers, so you know it's not called Winstead for no reason. And everyone who was testing, you guys know in your hearts who the true winners were. So
All right, Anduin, real quick, I'm giving you the uncensored. What was the chat like? You
what
have
was the chat
you
like?
have the uncensored pass. What was the chat like? How trash talky was it?
I mean, it was pretty good. I mean, Daedalus, was up there fighting alongside with me. Margaret was throwing in some good one-liners. It was it was honestly pretty good overall. So, oh yeah, we were allowed to listen to them. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, you were.
Yeah, so we were in the Zoom call with all of the devs and stuff. So it's kind of funny listening to the BS between all of them. Like the this is an aside, but like the reason I love Intrepid, the reason I love Steven, I love all of them is because when you listen to them talk with each other, you're not listening to a bunch of corporate suits using business jargon. No, they're sitting over there, they're using gamer speak. It's just a bunch of nerds, playing games together and testing games together. And that's why I love it. It's the idea that same, they just like me, that's just why I love it,
They like
man.
me for real, for real.
They like me for
Hmm.
real.
No, I mean like they kind of like mentioned it in the two live streams ago where they're just saying like I'm the juggernaut bitch like in the chats, so I can imagine a lot of that happening.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, it was so like there was you see a few devs on like the ones who are talking, but let me tell you is there's a shit ton of other devs that were also playing on both sides. Like I
Mhm.
said, there was 100 people running around doing shit during this event, fighting each other. the devs are great. They talk, they listen to feedback, they're here to build the game that not only they want to play but what we want to play. So like it's amazing to see that dedication from a studio. I am the last person to be a doomer when it comes to Intrepid because like unless it's crossbows that broke my heart. But anyway, that's an aside.
Just had
It's
to throw that in there real quick.
I have to. When are we
Maybe they'll
getting
come back.
crossbows back? It's such
They
a
may come
sad.
back.
I hope so. But anyway, like
My
yeah,
dwarf
they're
friends
just
are very upset.
yes, they really are. They took literally their only thing that they can use as a bow. But it's Intrepid just has a way about them that really rings with me. Like the idea that Steven's literally that guy that we always said when we were kids, if I had $1 million or if I had millions of dollars and I were to build a game, this is what I'd do. Well, Steven's that kid. He's the guy who has the millions of dollars building his game. So I'm excited to see what happens, what I can say for anyone who's listening and they're considering buying into PI, for the love of God, do not. It is not worth your money. I will say this 100% of the time. Don't spend your money. Spend it on the stocks or something like that. Make your money make money. But what I can say is that, you know, I'm looking forward to quarter 3. I think that Intrepid's going to get there. I think these current tests are perfect examples that, if you remember way back in Apocalypse, for those
Mhm.
who are old enough to remember that in the community, like we got 40 people on the screen and the server had to be reset. So now we have 100 people on a screen and suddenly the game's running smooth, no one's crashing. It's just pretty great, So,
Right.
yeah.
I mean, I heard the first tests were pretty rough, but like the amount of time that it took to like fix those was incredibly fast. Like from playtest 1 to playtest 6, apparently there was so many fixes on performance and other bugs that you guys were experiencing. Can you speak on like how that was for you? If you want to, you can go ahead and give system system specs that you have, so that other viewers can kind of like compare that.
Well, I'm about to be ganked on screen, and Daedalus is right there too. So,
Yep.
this is awful. But anyway, so
PTSD.
Bad thing to watch.
yeah, no, it's PTSD. I'm running a 3070 Ti i7 8700K.
Okay.
I was running the game on high for most of the tests. I switched it to medium when we had more people, just because I wanted the performance to be better. I had 60 FPS for most of it. I mean, obviously the earlier tests it was a little rougher, but as we got further along in the tests, my frame rates definitely stabilized. I think that they've been very clear that the game's a little janky right now, so it's not going to be as polished when it comes to connectivity and stability. So if it's this way when it's unpolished, I can only imagine what they will do with all of their coding and stuff when the game's further along and closer to launch. This game is going to be a beautiful game that I think even like lower tier computers will be able to run. So
Nice. Did you have DLSS enabled, or is that coming?
no, I did not.
Okay. I don't remember if they said it was enabled for the test or if they were
Hey, look, I get targeted now.
working on it. I was about to turn the screen to gray screen,
wrong.
but I didn't have enough time to do that.
When you say you're fine, but you're not really fine.
Exactly.
I mean, okay, but like,
RIP.
for example, with that was 10 seconds of me being alive, getting focused by 40 people. So like,
Yeah, that's crazy.
one Yeah, I mean, so there's like certain buffs you can pull as a tank, and then there's also like if you have a cleric on you, they can do all sorts of crazy stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Is it possible
Yeah,
to rotate the wall?
You place it down. I think eventually, yes, they want you to be able to rotate it and stuff.
but not for
Okay,
the
that's very
test.
cool. Hmm.
Okay. Um, Obviously balance is not the focal point. But how was the finger in the wind for you for their class strength? I know a lot of people were saying cleric was really strong, tank was really strong. It looked like ranger had its moments, and then mage also was just like an insane burst. It seems like all of these archetypes were, and fighter had obviously its boons as well. So like, how did you feel about class strength? Everything seems strong. Do you like it that way? Did you feel like there were the boulder parchment shears that they intend to, or was it just like, wow, everything's just strong?
So I just, I think the game feels nice right now. Like, obviously, there's some balancing they need to do to certain spells, but overall, each of the classes have their strengths. Like the fact is a mage is gonna crush most melee people at range. They have some CCs. You see it right now. Their little frost blizzard type spell. You know,
Mm-hmm.
there's certain things that make mages have, a little of a one up on others. A fighter was phenomenal as all. I mean, it was jumping all over the place. I mean, but it wasn't as tanky as the tank. The tank had a bunch of mobility, a bunch of CCs, a bunch of debuffs. That was awesome. Cleric, obviously is your healer. It has all sorts of different, skills that buff various people, and then also has assorted things that really make it stand out to the other classes. Ranger, I mean, the Ranger is so mobile, you really can't kill them. Uh, what really uh, reminds me is it kind of reminds me of mages or sorcerers in ESO with
Mm-hmm.
that blink ability where they can just keep just out of reach and keep pummeling you with range spells. That's kind of what a ranger is. It's a lot of mobility, a lot of range damage. Um,
Did you think
you know,
did you think that the fighter would be able to keep up with a ranger, or is that just like no? Cuz like we've seen a lot of mobility out of the fighter. And that was
yeah.
my biggest
That's
thing
hard
was
to
I thought
say.
fighter would be like the scissors to the ranger's paper.
Yeah, so like for example, you have groups like the tank and the fighter. They both have charges. Uh the tank has two charges. It has one that is like a freeform charge that you just can use out action combat type of thing, and the first person you hit you stop and do a bash damage to them. There's another one where you have to select someone and you run straight to them. So like you can close the distance, but obviously you're going to blow all of your charge spells to do it. um so there's the ability, but and if you get those stuns off, the stuns are pretty devastating in this game. You get stunned up and you get locked down for a solid 4 or 5 seconds. um and I personally liked it. I liked the idea that you can lock someone down and kill them and target them, because the issue I've had in so many MMOs is when you have a player who's just devastating your team. They're able to break your CCs all the time. You can't lock them down, and they're just a thorn in your side. I feel like CCs are the big way to close the gap of
Mhm.
the top tier players and the low tier players, because if you can get the right CCs off, you can kill a top tier player by having those. So I think it's the true gap closer, if you will. So
Yeah, Titan, you were going to say something, and if it was covered, I have another question to ask you.
Oh yeah, no. All I was saying was that I thought that the fighter's mobility options were actually one of the things that kind of like drew me towards it.
Mhm.
Normally, the fighter is kind of having to struggle to keep up with the ranger or the mage. So the fact that I saw a fighter that could look like he could uh, get up in there and actually be viable was a really, really nice, like refreshing, like take.
Yeah. And I know in PvP for literally any game ever, CC is king. So how do you Titan, how do you approach like PvP? Do you look at like target priority? Do you think about like CC first? Do you, like when you're thinking about like spacing, player abilities, what are you thinking of?
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely, target priority is a major factor in any kind of game that you play. Um, always go for the healer. No offense, clerics. Um, but they just have so many different like tools in their kit that can make your life so much harder. And when you lose your cleric, there's also that sense of like panic. It's also a psychological kind of thing. You're like, oh, I don't have this 200 health shield on me anymore, or it makes things feel, yeah. That's kind of it. Makes things feel like makes things feel like people are on timers essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Like my abilities have a lot more weight to them, and they feel that weight, which is like another like psychological aspect of it. So
Yeah.
definitely lean more towards target priority than anything. I also kind of keep terrain in my mind as well. A lot of MMOs nowadays do allow for terrain to be a factor. Um, but like in old school, where you could just shoot through a boulder or something like that, less so. But target priority was primary.
Yeah. I have been thinking about this a lot, and I love the way that the Highlands were map designed, because it looked like the Node War event was specifically chosen because the map design had intentional like strong points, like chokeholds, and it looked like the designers who made the Highland Hills intentionally made this for a battlefield. And this seems like a very intentionally made open world battlefield for players to gravitate towards. So, Anduin, when you were playing, did you feel that? Did you feel like the map forced you into certain like chokeholds or like certain like power points that you wanted to hold and defend?
Sort of, I mean, the big thing that I always like to explain to people about anti-Zerg mechanics. People get so hooked on the idea of more numbers equals better, but Ashes has the number one anti-Zerg mechanic in any MMO. They have player collision. Player
Mm-hmm.
collision makes it so you can have ball Zergs. You have the ability to make people be funneled through an area where if your tank gets stunned in front of you, your whole charge gets stopped. That's why Zergs are probably going to kind of struggle in Ashes. Is CCs are hard locking. They root you down. So then, by player collision, you're controlling the ebb and flow of where the Zergs are going. So I just don't think Zergs will be as big of an issue because you have player collision in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Obviously, there's other things, but to your question about the map, yeah, people. If you look at the various fights, they're happening around choke points. They're happening around kind of areas of influence and stuff. Uh, but if you really want to look at the philosophy that Intrepid has for this map, for example, this section, this is a PvE location. This is a kind of open world dungeon, if you will, because you have wandering bosses, you have a castle that you can explore, you have all of this stuff. So they built it in mind of group content going through and completing this area for PvE type stuff. So with that in mind, look at this and the design of this area as what other PvE locations will be. And that is kind of the the idea is that all different facets of the game, PvE, PvP, economics, they all are going to kind of revolve around each other in different areas. Now, people are always scared about being forced to PvP. I mean, I look at it as make friends who are PvPers. Your strongest thing, if you don't like the PvP, make friends with people who do. They will come and defend you. They might even do it for free because they like the shits and giggles. I
Well,
think
and
that,
if you're a
yeah,
PvPer, you want your PvEers and your PV and your crafters to quite literally join you on these, because there are other objectives other than just PvP, and also you need that gear, right? Like crafters are, as Steven likes to put it, the shit. They make the best shit. So you have to have them involved in your life. So whether you're a PvPer, crafter, PvEer, all these things are going to matter in Ashes, and I think that's what makes it such a great PvX game.
you are absolutely correct.
Titan, do you have any like desires to do like crafting, PvEing, or are you strictly a PvE player?
I'll probably dabble a little bit. I probably won't be a like master crafter or anything like that. But I know from my own like personal enjoyment, I definitely want to have some levels of like resource gathering, so that when I'm out doing my PvP stuff, or I'm just helping out a caravan or something along those lines, I can still contribute and be a part of that whole interaction. Not to mention, I think it's just really funny to see somebody with a pickaxe, like going at a rock, and then somebody tries to gank him, and it just turns around, and he's got like a holy spear or something and a shield, and it's like, oh, nice
this
to see
guy,
you.
this guy fucks. Okay, my bad. Yeah, no, I love that. And I do think it'll make sense for PvPers to definitely be like gathering based, because they're going to be out in the world a lot. So, yeah. As far as visual clarity, I know a lot of people were talking about. Sorry, were you going to say something before I move the conversation?
Yeah. So Planendorf is one of the devs from Intrepid. He he's a great guy. I've loved playing with him so far. But like one thing that I really like to encourage from Ashes is I love the idea that, like, for example, this is just a basic node war event, right? Like, gather resources, go in there, fight over a king of the hill type point channeling thing. The reason I love it, and I'm echoing what almost every other content creator has said, is the idea that it's these PvP areas are something for everyone. Your crafters are going out and mining resources. Your PvE players are killing mobs and running that blood in to turn in. And PvPers are out there fighting and defending everyone. Those things are what PvP has been missing in every single game. You need to not make PvP just about fighting other people. You need to make it about the immersion, about the grouping up with people with different skill sets rather than just, I don't know, slapping each other in the face. Like that's what's I think will set Ashes apart from other games, is that they want to make PvE, PvP, whatever location you're fighting at, that you have those mixes of combat and stuff like that. So you know I always think is, as long as this is a good example of what PvP will be like in the future, I'm all for it. Flesh it out, add more gimmicky stuff into it, do more cool things. Let's go.
Mhm.
You
And
touched
I
on this.
wanted to
Sorry.
go ahead. Go ahead.
You touched on this a little bit. You said that there were like bosses that were walking around during this. Um, Definitely going to need like PvEers to handle those mobs that the PvP are kind of busy with. So I
Where
really
they like
like the
know
fact
the
that
the mob mechanics, basically.
Exactly. Yeah, because a PvPer may or may not know what's going on, and then gets hit for a butt ton of damage while they're trying to defend the PvEers or the crafters as they're trying to collect the resources during either a node war or a mob event or something along those lines. And I really think that all of that together is really cool.
They did mention that like one of the node wars would like possibly spawn like PvE type things like a raid boss. And so like if you were to do a node war event that spawned a raid boss, your PvEers are going to be really, really necessitated for that. And this is where I think it relates back to the King's Avatar, where you have like those world bosses that are in the world that you are fighting other people to take control over. So it's like a mix of like the world boss, like it's meant to be stolen. It's meant to be fought over. And like these types of node war events with these big PvE raid bosses, I think can make some really, really fun and interesting dynamics.
Yeah, on to that degree as well. I was also thinking about like luring a raid boss over, like having your PvEers lure a raid boss over to a place that you're having like a harder time defending as a means of like stopping them.
Here's the second time I die right here.
Just sad. Why do you got to point it out? People wouldn't be able to read your name
really
right now.
Held your own for like a good 10-15 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, this was the whole 30 focusing on me again. Like the tanks are good. They feel good.
This is where Anduin is yelling in voice chat, "Where the fuck is my team? What the
hell?" One thing, I kind of like to point out is one of my favorite experiences with PvP that was alternative, a unique take on PvP was actually the Imperial City in Cyrodiil, in ESO. They had wandering bosses. You're fighting amongst mobs, and these wandering bosses, you could be fighting, group versus group in these sewers, and then suddenly a random wandering boss rolls up, kills half of the party on either side, and completely changes the whole view of the battle. So like,
guess we lost that garrison.
Yeah, no, I love it. It's having PvE raid bosses and stuff wandering around in a PvP setting really adds another layer of tactics and having to be aware of your situations.
Yeah, I want to move on to this topic because it covers a bunch of things. Visual clarity in the game. I'm looking at this mess of visual effects, and I think a lot of people are complaining about it, but I honestly, I don't think the screen is that busy. I actually think it's okay for the most part. Yeah, there's some over textured stuff, but like I think if you tone it down a little bit, it's not that big of a deal, and you should have that control when you're in the game. So when I'm looking at this, like a lot of the visual clarity on the spells, like I can tell what's being casted, I can tell who's casting it, and I can tell the areas that I'm trying to stray away from for the most part. There was that little caveat where people were like, "Well, I wish I could see what my team's casting and what the enemy team is casting with like a little bit of a tint." And Steven was like a little hesitant on that. So what are your guys' thoughts on the visual clarity of the game so far? I actually like it in its current state. I think it will be touched upon, so I don't think there's anything to worry about. But I definitely have like certain personal pet peeves with it, but those are mine. But I don't think it looks terrible in its current state.
Titan, go ahead.
Yeah, so I actually come from like a Final Fantasy 14 background as well, and that is just like bloom all over your screen. You can't see anything unless you turn down some settings, and then even then, you still don't know what's going on half of the time. So the fact that I'm able to track a lightning ball like right there and follow it all the way to its intended target gives me hope for where it is currently. I personally like it. I don't think that it's too much or even that it needs to be toned down or have like a tint to the effects. If you're getting hit by that attack right there, you're going to know what's happening. It's all going to focus fire on you. And it's really just all about situational awareness and being able to understand what's going on.
Yeah, so like for me, as someone who played this, I I really didn't get bothered by the spells and stuff like that. Like what you were saying, Lloyd, is I like the spells being big and flashy because it allows it's kind of like the red circles on the ground, your skittles, if you will. It's don't stand in stupid. So you're like completely aware where attacks are happening from. They're being choreographed. These things are useful for a PvPer because it allows you to adjust to whatever is being popped in front of you. So, it's
I think the
I
main concern
didn't
is like if you're looking on the screen right now, like the chains of subjugation that's right there, like you don't know if that's your teammates or your enemies, right?
right, and I do believe they are planning to have some sort of indicator of like red or green or whatever, to
But
define
Steven seemed a
each.
little hesitant on it. So we
Right.
we actually don't know on like what their intent is because he's like I see their point, but maybe not is what he said in the stream. So just to
Mhm.
put that out there.
But the thing is what you got to realize is that while Steven is the head honcho, at the end of the day, Steven is also going to listen to the various developers and stuff that work underneath them, the people who are far more expert at making video games than Steven is, right? So
Mhm.
like if the developers all come out and they're like, yeah, no, we need to put down red big no zones for when it's the enemy, then they might, I think it just really depends on how things develop. Like right now, I, I think communication is king when it comes to the current iteration of Ashes and like people doing callouts and stuff. The other thing is you're going to notice if the chains are friendly or not because you're going to immediately get slowed down and stuff. So,
Okay, so there is like an actual character effect when you're like walking through it.
yeah,
You're like, oh shit.
yeah, you're slowed. You get debuffs and stuff. They pop up. So like it's not just like you walk through and nothing happens. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
To keep on this visual clarity, but I was watching Jamie last night on his stream, and Steven popped in to talk about it. Jamie was interviewing DA basically on Node Wars, and basically Steven said he got a lot of flack for the health bars. So if for anybody that isn't aware, because it took me until like 2 days ago to actually realize what the health bars were doing. I was like, why is nobody taking damage? It was really confusing. What is actually happening is that you actually can't see the gradual decline in health. It will only proc that full bar once you've hit that like 75% percentile, the 50th percentile, the 25th percentile. Like the whole quarter will, disappear once your health bar reaches that. You won't actually see the gradual decline in it.
Mhm.
So that's why if you're like looking at the screen, you're like, wow, the ranger just did a rapid shot and that guy lost no HP. Like what that's so weak. That guy's
So
not doing any damage.
So this actually goes back to a philosophy that Stephen talked about in A1. It's the idea that you should be able to see your own HP go down as it actually goes down and your allies. Because if you look at the screen right now, it's not going down by 25% for allies. You're actually
Right.
seeing the trickle. What he wants and the philosophy they have is that it goes down by 25% because he wants there to be some sort of almost mystery to your opponent. It's why
Mhm.
he doesn't want people to be able to inspect other people. He wants it to be a bit of, you adjust to whatever the fight is, and that's why it goes by 25s. It's so you don't have complete view of what's going on with the health, so then
Mhm.
you don't know when to, like, I don't know, focus someone to bring them down because they're at 5% health. Yeah, it's fog of war. as Ferocious just said.
Yeah,
So,
and
like,
and Titan, you've played D&D quite a bit, so you're probably familiar with the mechanic where like when your DM is giving or you as a DM is giving a description of like how the monster looks or how your ally looks, you'll say like, "Oh, they're healthy. They're looking okay. Oh, he's a little bit bloody, which means like he hit like half HP, and then like he's looking really bad, and then he's near death." Like you have like these like general indicators of like where this person is at, but you don't know their exact HP.
mhm.
Yeah, I actually didn't know that that's how they were doing the enemy health bar system, and
Mhm.
I am all for it. I feel like that's fantastic. It also gives the enemy like a chance to really fight back, because you can be low HP and you don't have to act like it. You can still be going in there making people feel like, oh god, am I actually doing any damage to these people?
Oh, this guy actually has
What just
like
happened?
2k HP.
Yeah, exactly. Like a tank is gonna have like 2k HP, even though he's down on that one bar. And then you're like, oh, do I really want to keep focus firing this guy, or should I try to disperse my damage a little bit? Having that ability to kind of play mind games with your opponent is really interesting. And like you mentioned from my D&D background, the mystery and the like not knowing when he's going to die and then he dies it's a rewarding feeling.
Mm-hmm. How do you feel about like execution abilities? I know there was a little controversy around that in the community where players like if you see the low target HP person, you just tell your fighter and your ranger at the same time to both use their execute abilities, and maybe one of them will, land it.
I think it's another good system, because obviously you don't want there to be too much mind games, or like to really be able to use that 1 HP system. Like I said, like in the example I gave for the tank, you can use your 2 execute abilities, and you can know for certain that you don't have to focus that person anymore. You can move on to a different person or something along those lines. And I feel like it just adds an extra layer of like interest, and like your healers will obviously be able to see where you're actually at
Mhm.
and be able to make determinations from there.
Yeah, I do like that. Ando, did you feel that when you were playing, like the mystery behind like the low health targets? Did it like change your playstyle at all?
I mean, a little bit, but I was also a tank, so me just go in and club people. They don't
Fair enough.
die. Me keep
Me
clubbing.
unga bunga stick.
Yes, unga bunga stick.
Well, did
You
you
know,
ever play any of those mind games as the tank while you're low HP and you're
yeah,
like,
yeah.
I'm
I
still
mean,
fine, actually?
well, so like for example, one of the skills that the tank has is literally it heals you for 50% of your health. So
Oh, wow.
you can drop down and you can kind of play the games with people, you see them charging up for their executes as they charge you, and then you pop that and their executes hit like a normal spell. So, then they blow their load on you, and well, they didn't, do what they needed to do. So that was one thing that I actually like the choreography, because you can, if you see what they're casting, you can. Oh no, Key, that was the phrasing.
What, blowing your
One
load?
thing,
I don't know what
yeah,
that
blowing
means.
your
I'm
load,
12.
right?
What
Yeah,
is
what
this?
is that? What does that mean? One thing I would like to kind of give another uh, point of view too is the philosophy also behind the chunk enemy health also is because Steven back in I think A1 had described that he wants to make it so enemy health bars degrade, like they look broken as it
Hmm.
goes, and they'll look more and more broken as health goes down, instead of just having a health bar to
That
make
would
it a
be
little
cool
more
too.
immersive. Yeah. So
Yeah.
that
Isn't that
is
kind of like
why.
what ESO does?
No, no, no. But that's kind of the philosophy behind it. Is that by is adding more immersion rather than just having some big red bar.
Hmm. Yeah, no, that's really cool. I know there's some like WoW add-ons that did that, but yeah, I wasn't sure on if ESO did that or not.
Mhm.
Also, last topic of the visual clarity, Shay was actually mentioning in our Discord earlier that sometimes it's hard to differentiate between like who's playing what, if it's a ranger, if it's a mage, if it's a tank. Like you could kind of guess, but like there was definitely some more guesswork, and especially with archetypes being able to use whatever weapons they want, it may not be so readily available. When you were talking about how some of that should be hidden behind the fog of war, as Steven wants it, so that like you can't inspect players for like their items or their gear or whatever. That's an intended design choice. How was it? I feel like I can only tell based on like what abilities they're using, and like as soon as they use like a class ability, I'm like, oh okay, that guy's a mage, that guy's like a cleric or whatever. Did you have any troubles with that in game?
Um, Not really. Like, I think my thing was the second they cast a spell, I immediately knew what class they were
Mm-hmm.
because each of the classes have very different spells,
Yeah.
and skill sets. And I actually think that's part of the immersion, right? Like the idea that a mage can wear heavy plate or a tank can wear light armor. I think is just part of the whole experience. Like if you don't if you have it where it's big bold, this is a mage, you know people are going to be knowing immediately what it is. Where I guess in the flow of battle, regardless of what someone is, I'm still going to approach the fight in various different ways. Like, you I as a PvPer myself, usually my engagement when it comes to fighting people doesn't change too much based on whatever class they're running. It's
Mm-hmm.
more along the lines of, are they squishy or not? Like, is do they take damage when I hit them, or should I change targets?
Yeah.
So I think that the choreography of the spells is a little more telling than say whatever the than say whatever having a big huge beacon on your bar that says this is a mage.
Titan,
Um,
would you prefer something like the icons being like this is this class and this is their level, or would you rather have that like kind of hidden and immerse yourself in the game? And then when you're done answering that, Anduin, I want you to answer.
Yeah, I would probably lean more towards the mystery aspect of it. I kind of enjoy the idea of like dressing up as a mage, and then people come at me a little closer or get a little bit closer to me, making my life a little bit easier. Or because I'll be probably rocking in like either medium or light armor,
Mhm.
as like I alluded to previously, is just more mind games. There's a lot of different things that you can do just with your aesthetic choices.
And you're coming from a PvP perspective as well, so like it's not like you're
mm,
just thinking about this in like terms of like role play or whatever. You actually like the mind games of being able to hide that information from other people, as well as other people hide that information.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it a lot more gives a lot more like need for information gathering,
Mm-hmm.
like scouting missions, for example, have a purpose now. We don't know what the enemy is going to be bringing to the table. The only difference I feel like if there may be an issue with is when we start getting into the archetype system.
Mm-hmm.
Is that we won't know, and that's depending upon how they decide to go about doing it. Um, we won't know exactly what that person is, but like Anduin alluded previously, when it's time to throw down, you kind of have your basic idea of what you're going to do when it's time to throw down.
Yeah, I think I'm of the opinion where, like Steven's icon in the top left, it's like the mage icon. I think
Mm.
having that icon with like their level associated with it, um, maybe their level, maybe not, but I think at least the icon would be beneficial for like for the first 25 levels. It'd be the archetype icon, and then for the next 25 levels, whenever you get your secondary archetype and you have your full class, I think each class should have its own icon. And whenever you click on somebody, I think it should show their class icon.
Okay.
But that's my personal opinion. Anyone?
I mean, Planendorf hits it right there. Class agnostic gear is also big for build variety. You know,
Mhm.
what he means by that is the ability that you can wear whatever you want. You can use whatever weapon you want. So having it be where you don't have to wear medium as a ranger, or you don't have to wear plate as a tank, is huge. It
Mhm.
allows the most diversity and the most choice by characters. For example, I was rocking a couple pieces of medium, a couple pieces of light, and also heavy armor while I was tanking. You saw I was pretty survivability in there. I did that because each of the different light, medium, and heavy, they do different things. They have either higher crit chances, they have higher physical protections, etc. You know, spells regenerate faster, or whatever. You know, these different things that adds to what the game is supposed to be about, the ability of choice to make the game truly your own. That's why I think people really need to get away from the whole idea of, if I'm a ranger, I have to use a bow and have a hood on. You know, you don't have to do that anymore. You can wear whatever you want. Just, you know, try to make sure it's viable.
Mhm.
But like, you know, that's the thing that people I think get stuck on, is they're used to playing other MMOs where, you know, World of Warcraft is the worst example. I mean, for this is, remember when you could not wear plate on anything? Like only a few classes could use it, and then
Yeah.
suddenly, you know, changed up as the game's gone on. But I think that having it be the ability to wear what you want, to test different builds, to see what different things do for you, that's great. I
Mhm.
do not want to make it so classes can only use certain weapons and armors, because if you do that, the game's no longer play it as you want. You're just another cookie cutter MMO. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I come from Tibia, where like you didn't get to see what gear the guy had. You're like, well, I think my gear's good. That guy's around the same level as me, but I guess we can try to fight. And then like you figure out real quick whether you're gonna win or lose, because gear is impossible to see. It's absolutely like, that guy could be level 8 wearing end game armor, and you would have no idea, and that guy would just absolutely dump on you. As long as like he had the right skills and stuff still. So like
Right.
I actually did that. I was like a level 11 knight, and I was dueling people in the middle of town with end gear armor, and with like really high skills, and I was beating people that were like level 30. And I thought that was awesome, and I thought it was funny as fuck, but like I can understand like why there's like certain game breaking mechanics with that. So maybe not the best system, but it was definitely fun, and it was definitely like, oh, well, maybe just don't attack every level 13 you see, you know, just because you're higher level. So,
Mhm.
I think there is value in hiding certain gear and mechanics and stuff like that, and there's also things to be wary of, to make sure that you don't go one way or the other. So, I love all the mechanics stuff. Is there anything else that you want to touch on mechanically before we move on to the next subject? Like, did you notice anything like with
So
like keybinds or anything like that that you liked?
I actually, so if you look at the bottom of the UI, you have 1 through 5, and then you also have key buttons that you can also bind and stuff. I actually really liked that you have the ability to have a bunch of different things. For me, my build, I really only used 1 through 9, and then also the uh, middle buttons with V, F, and stuff like that.
Mhm.
I personally like that. I like the ability to have less skills and still do high amount of output. My
Mhm.
biggest thing I've always hated is like World of Warcraft, where you have like 30 bars across your screen, half your
I'm
screen
so
is
anti
spells.
against that. Yeah.
I hate that. I would rather only be able to use 10 spells and those 10 spells be viable for me to have a good rotation and do some good damage. I don't want to be having to do arithmetic between every single fight I do because I need to make sure that this spell pops off so it can buff up this other spell so that spell can hit. And if my rotation is messed up, then I have to wait 3 minutes to start it all over again. I
Yeah.
hate that, you know?
I hate having a rotation. I like reactive based gameplay where I'm, oh, this is happening on the screen. I need to use this ability to get out of it, and then maybe like I have like a default like damage combo if I have this space, but like maybe if I have like a short burst combo, like I like having reactive based gameplay rather than just a rotation based gameplay. Is kind of all I'm trying to say.
No, I agree. I agree with you.
Um, Titan, your thoughts?
Oh yeah, definitely a lot more on the reactive side than anything else. Much like everybody else here, I believe. Um,
I wish we had a PVE person on the on the call to be like, because I noticed like PVE players tend to like having rotations, and they just like to
That's true,
cycle through like 1 through like 10 or 12 or whatever, and they just keep going.
I think that's mainly due to the fact that most bosses aren't engaging,
Yeah,
or
that's true.
don't make you think as you're playing. It's like, okay, they're at 45 HP now, so now I've got to use this level of rotation.
Mm-hmm. Or like just like this is the max damage output. So, and I know they're not going to use the mechanic for the next 30 seconds, so I have this window to, burst dump all my all my load onto them, as we so graciously said, or wait, I don't know the words. I don't know words. As we said earlier. But yeah,
ADHD, man.
ADHD, man. It's crazy. Anyways,
Today's stream is brought to you by Where Are My Thoughts?
where is my mind?
Okay,
We are
continue
actually
on
getting,
before we get stuck.
yeah, sorry. One of the biggest mechanics Node Wars in itself is just you are going to be land grabbing, you are going to be doing a bunch of different like node scrolls and whatnot. So this one that they showed on stream is just like the one event. However, that's not what the whole node war is going to be. This is just like a little crumb, a little snippet of what we're actually going to be experiencing in game. So, we can't really go into like the wide spectrum of types of like node wars and stuff. Like they named a few on stream where there's like sabotage, there's like taking over like mayor tenancy for a couple, like a temporary time of like a node, and then enacting your policies on that. There's things like the raid bosses, as we explained earlier. There's going to be all types of different node war events. However, the node war itself is an ongoing thing. So, first, why do you think people might start a node war? A node war? Do you think they'll be common? And do you think node wars are primarily an early game thing, or do you think this will keep on going? So I know that's a lot, but I want to just kind of keep that up. And then I guess as a little added, should non PvPers be worried if like your node enters a node war? I just wonder if what your guys' thoughts are on all that.
I mean, so for the first one, which is like, why would you start a node war? I think there's just a ton of different reasons. A lot of them are like getting benefits and stuff from just like, I don't know, resources or experience and stuff. Like for example, with this one, you take control of this area, so anytime anyone does anything in this region, the node that won the node war now gets all the experience from it. So like I think stuff like that is really useful and adds to getting buffs and stuff for PvEers. Like things like that is what makes people want to get involved in it. That those benefits.
Hmm.
Thank you for coming, Blandorf.
Thanks, guys. Yeah. So, do you think they'll be common within the game, or not?
Yeah, I think I honestly would hope they're common. Um, it's one of those things that if they design it correctly, to the last question you have, PvEers should have stuff to do in the node war if they design it correctly. It shouldn't just be, people slapping each other in the face. It should be people hitting rocks. It should be people targeting bosses and stuff like that. If you don't, if you have those systems in it, suddenly becomes an actual node war and not just a PvP war. It's something where every single citizen in a node can get involved and participate and have their own fun in it.
Hmm.
And that's why I think that I do believe that they will probably be a regular what's the word? A regular
Occurrence.
occurrence, because it's it's just a it's another one of the major types of systems in the game that you're not getting in other games. So
Do you think it'll be just like an early game thing, or do you think it'll like evolve into like even Metropolis's at their end game is still going to be
I
doing
think
Node
endgame
Wars?
is I think endgame is where it's going to be the most potent.
Okay.
I think people will be busy, trying to level up their stuff, and obviously people will fight each other to make other people vassals and stuff, right?
Hmm.
Um, but I think that metros are going to be fighting each other in node wars because they want to get that XP from a rival metro, right? They're going to want to get whatever buffs a different zone has. So those things I think will make it a very big thing for quote unquote endgame for different large nodes
Hmm.
because they want to get the resources and the buffs that the other node has.
Okay. Yeah. You said this, and it reminded me of an argument I had with somebody. Quote unquote endgame. What I mean by endgame, by the way, I don't just mean like the game is like there's nothing else except for end game content. Like when I speak end game, I mean most of the player base is level 50 or the max level, whatever it is. There's like metropolises being had or whatever, but primarily it's due to level. Like your character progression kind of stops at wherever the level progression is, right? So like when I think about like
Wrong.
end game, when I think about
Wrong.
wrong, do you want to explain why I'm wrong?
Yeah. I mean, so the philosophy with Ashes is that level is not the end. You have all sorts of different social organizations you have to join. I mean, for one, you join into the faith, you have your own like levels of in the faith that you have to do. So like there's an end game in the faith, but there's also probably an end game in the bounty hunters club or whatever there is. There's all these different things. So like I think the idea is that there's never going to be an end game because there's always something you can like perform and get better at that can improve your builds.
Yeah.
To what you're kind of going into though, yes, I think at the point where everyone is max level and they kind of are in their niche, if you will, of what
Hmm.
they're doing. I agree. I think that yeah, node wars will be probably pretty common. I think people might get bored and they might do stuff just because they, want to see the fire happen. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So to kind of just put it out there on the table, when I say end game, I mean you've reached your vertical progression, you haven't reached your horizontal progression. And I think horizontal progression is going to be massive. So big that like if you were to try to do everything, it would take you years to do. And so like I think that is a good way to go. The topic that I have on later is gonna touch on this, but I definitely think with how the systems are designed, I think you absolutely have to cap or at least soft cap vertical progression to a certain point. That is probably my most controversial take. I've definitely got a lot of negative feedback on this, but that's my personal opinion. So Titan, why would you want to participate in a node war? Do you think they'll be common? Do you think it's like an early game thing or end game thing? And then do you think non-PvPers should be worried?
Yeah. Why would I want to participate in a node war? I like to watch the world burn, obviously.
Okay. That's one perspective at least.
PvPer, yes.
Yeah. No, I really just want to test my skills against other people. I also want to really like upgrade the stronghold that we're going to be building and be able to like be able to just have a good time doing the thing that I really enjoy with games, which is fighting, which is getting into the thick of it. Will they happen a lot? I'm hoping so. Based off of what I'm understanding from the node system, it sounds like they kind of need to happen a lot, so that there can be more progression. There can be a constant changing of the world in a sense. Like some place that was top dog in an area could lose a node war, and now they're the places that were facilitating their needs basically like cripples that economy, so that when it comes to like a siege or something, then you have that benefit. So just from like a tactical perspective, I believe that node wars will happen quite a bit. End game versus early game, I imagine they'll probably be in all aspects, but like Anowin was saying, probably more towards end game because there's just going to be people so busy with the vertical progression aspects of it. I know I probably will be working a lot on like PvA aspects of things as I'm progressing, or making sure that my crafters get up there so that I can get the best gear. W crafters. And that'll be probably what most of my my early stage is. And then once we get to the end game, I'll start throwing down with anybody who wants to go.
Nice.
Within reason.
Yeah. And do you think non-PvPers should be worried in the world with all these node wars happening and like, but not, I know you mentioned the W crafters, like they gotta have the best shit. So do you think the people that don't like to PvP but like to craft, they're gonna want to participate in these things?
I bring it back to something that Anduin said in a hangout during one of our games. Was like, you're gonna want to participate. This is the stuff that you're using to build these things. These are the things that you're going to be using to like get your progression going. So you're always going to have that incentive to defend that. Like you've got this crop of trees that you use for your farming route. You're going to want that. And if it gets lost in a node war, that goes to somebody else.
Yep. Definitely, especially if like you're aiming for like a freehold and like you can't reach the highest level to get your freehold and you don't have enough resources because you're allowing other people to take over your node. So yeah, I definitely think I agree with you and that and Anduin with the fact that crafters probably want to participate. At what level can probably vary in the game with whatever they think should happen with giving out gear, participating in just like the crafting nodes of like gathering the materials during the objective inside the event. There's plenty of ways that you could do it. And there's plenty of ways that you can play as a crafter and participate in these events. And that's what I think is really, really cool about the Node Wars update that they showed. I personally like the little bit more like PvP aspects, like King of the Hill, Strongholds type thing, where you are just like PvPing. But I do know the reason for why they do the the gather the materials and whatnot. Those little other side objectives that should probably strive for. Feels very StarCraft-esque, where they go and gather materials and build up your army so that you can get like the next level and Zerg your enemy. Not really Zerg, but like the little faction. But yeah, I think that'll end our Node Wars topic. Unless you guys have anything any last things to say, Anduin, any things that you want to add from the test?
No, just to clarify for Elo, it is a choice. The mayor chooses, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it's why it's important to get involved in your local politics, because the local politics help you decide what's going to go on with your node. So,
Vote Anduin Kayvon, 20 something.
no, I don't want. I really actually, the more I'm learning about mayors, the more I want to not be a mayor.
Bro, it just sounds so fucking awful.
Like, you're literally just a whipping boy, and if anything goes wrong, you can damn well bet everyone's gonna be like, "Boo, kill."
Your head is on the spike, yeah.
Yeah, you'll get like blacklisted from your own node. Like, I can already see it happening. So, like,
yeah, that's crazy. Like, I'm just like,
yeah.
It sounds like so much responsibility, and like your head is just on the chopping block for not just your node, but any nodes that may have be vassaled to you, and you're just like, oh shit.
Yeah, you're very much a middle manager, and it's terrifying.
See, that's why.
And I've seen Reddit.
That's why I want to be a king. King, you don't have to answer to the citizens. You just tax the shit out of them and wage war on the other peasants who don't want to get taxed. It's simple as, right?
All right. For our guild's safety, we are actually not going to tax the shit out of people, right, Anduin? Or are you being serious?
No. Unless we hate them, then we will tax them. Yes.
Okay.
If they're a rival node or rival guild, be on the lookout. You're going to be paying out the nose. But for all my friends out there, yeah, you guys.
You get the homie discount.
You guys get the homie discount. If anything, if you help us take our castle, we probably might toss some money your way anyway. So,
nice.
It's the good stuff.
Right.
They don't say golden peace, steel and war for nothing. So.
Ooh. All right. So now we have a bit of an ad break. Anduin, our sponsor for today is GS Gruel. Do you want to take us away?
Yeah. Do we have the? Are you throwing it up on the screen? There we go.
Up there.
So everybody, today's advertisement break is GS Gruel. It's not great, but it's technically food. And let me just say, I endorse this full-heartedly. It's cheap, and people really seem to feel righteous about it.
Absolutely. And then I'm going to take a little break here just to thank all of the followers. I know it's been a long hour and 30 minutes so far, but I'm just going to go down the list. Thank you, Demos. Thank you, Wuha421. Thank you, Planendorf. Kurian, you rated us with 6 people. Thank you so much for that. Vertec, Bryax, Elamoto, Ashen Herald, Thogli, Saljorn, Zayamen, and Talltail Gale. Thank you all for the follow in the recent times. Really appreciate it. Yeah. It's crazy to me how many people have already showed up. I think when we originally planned doing this, we were just thinking about doing this for the guild, letting people watch this at work or whatever. The amount of viewers that have actually showed up is super surprising, and I can't thank you guys so much. But with that, I think we are going to move on to our last final topics, which may still take quite a bit of time, but we'll try to run through these as the stream has been going on for quite a while, but I do want to hit all these topics, so...
I was going to say it's a school night, but I'm a teacher.
It is a school night.
It's the summer.
There you go.
Love it. I don't have to be into work till 10.
So we want to talk about VoIP in taverns, parties, and raids. What are your guys' thoughts on it? I was in the Golden Feather, and I was informed that you, as like the patron of your tavern, cannot kick individuals out from your tavern on your freehold. Do you think that'll change to combat bad actors in the future, or do you think it'll remain the same? And if you do think that you can like what punishment should be available for the bad actors if
Let me
you
tell
can
you.
go ahead.
Lloyd, this is a whole new profession. You can become a bouncer. It's the best thing ever. You just
Hmm.
hire a big Renkai, they'll grab them by the nape of their neck, throw them out, CC them, and kick the shit out of them. It'll be great.
I would
I'd
love
like
that.
you to get out now.
I
Like,
mean, my personal opinion is that if you're a tavern owner and you have somebody in the tavern, you can mute specific individuals.
Yeah.
You can auto kick them out and they can't enter the tavern. Like there's like an invisible wall they won't be allowed to, and they won't be able to VoIP outside of the tavern. And then I do also think that like you should be able to basically permaban them or whatever from your tavern.
So I'm curious to see how tavern permissions work because like with houses, you can make permissions on who can enter, who has keys to it, stuff like that. So I'm wondering if taverns will be similar with that where you will be able to block certain people from coming in. I don't know, man. I think it would be cool if you could actually lock people out, like blacklist them. Because
Mm-hmm.
let's say you have the most popular tavern, and your tavern is the only thing that's on this side of the node, and it's right next to a big raid area. Well, people want to go to your tavern before they go to the raid because they want to get the buffs from that tavern. Well, if you're blacklisted from that, I think that's just another reason to play nice and not be an asshat. So,
Mm-hmm. I agree. Titan?
yeah.
I'm much with Anduin. I think that any like tavern owner should have the right to refuse service, essentially.
Mhm.
If there is like reasonable like means for it. Like
Well,
I'm not saying that a mod needs to watch them, but I'm sure mods will be around in the area.
yeah, I mean they will have GMs kind of like in the world and whatnot watching people. However, I definitely think it'll be too hard for like that to be on Intrepid. I definitely think the moderation should be in the hands of player possession. I can see the way it could be abused for both sides. One, the annoying kid blasting music in the tavern, but also the tavern that bans basically everybody except for their little social group, and they have like um ERP nights or whatever you want to call it. So like there could be a wide range on either for or against whether you're in the tavern or out of the tavern with VoIP. I personally don't care. I think as long as the players have enough moderation on their own, and they can, you know, players have enough volition to, you know, report where necessary, play fun and friendly when they want to, and also be able to moderate bad actors. I think all three of those things need to be available to tavern owners, regardless of the context.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, I think giving that, is as Shay said earlier, refusing entry is awesome social currency. I don't see why people shouldn't be able to block out whoever they want. I mean, part of the whole game is making friends. Like, if you're not making friends, if you're not making connections, you're playing Ashes wrong. You know, if you're making friends, now you're playing Ashes right. Like this is the idea: is that it shouldn't just be about who has the biggest stick, but also who is the most charismatic, who makes friends, who impacts the world around them the most. Why not make that a thing? You're going to see that PvP gank guilds are going to be a lot less willing to attack people if they're getting literally socially outcast punished because they're attacking people. That's the whole thing, is that if, for example, if I'm a GS member and I have, rivals in another guild, why shouldn't I be able to block another guild from entering my establishment? I mean, in real life, you wouldn't be doing that if you didn't like someone. You just, So like, the, I think it's a very useful immersive experience tool. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely think that they are trying to make Ashes a social game. You should allow social ability to happen.
Mhm.
It's kind of like my point on that. And I do think, kicking people out is a um thing that happens in life and in a lot of social situations. And seriously, I think being able to have hear like your direct say in a thing is definitely
Mhm.
and I guess next I want to talk about something that's coming up for you, Anduin, the Guild Summit. So with social ability being the last topic, I definitely want to talk about how you are going to be joining the Guild Summit where the Golden Feather Tavern is hosting it. We've seen some guild summits in the past if you've been following for a long time. For those that haven't, do you want to explain what the guild summit is all about, why you're going to be there, any expectations, any past drama that might have happened that you want to laugh about? Anything's on the table.
I mean, obviously, the for most people who have been in Ashes since like 2017, they know about the Guild Summit of old, and that was a traumatizing experience, but also the funniest thing ever. I won't go into detail, but it was just it was a huge drama fest. There's hundreds of people there. People got literally socially outcast. Guilds were destroyed from it. It was an experience. So and this was all in an afternoon. It was something, all right. but like the guild summit that the Golden Feather is putting on, there is 7 guilds that will be talking. um Bergen from the Iron Coin, Jamie Chaos, obviously myself with the Gray Sentinels, Cersei Kimura with the Gilded House, DA from Envious, Cash, and Des Revis from Revis Order.
Mhm.
The idea in this is that we're going to be talking on various different topics. w- uh, like various things that are viewpoints on philosophy of guild leading, our philosophies on what we look for members, etc., stuff like that. Also, where we think guilds have a place in Ashes. So while there's going to be a lot of spirited discussions, I think there might be some debates and maybe some clashing of personalities that happen in um, the guild summit. So I think it's going to be an interesting thing for people to watch. Obviously we need, I'd love for people from Gray Sentinels to come out and support during this event, get some more GS members in the crowd. Yeah, I mean, you guys know me. I like to talk everybody's ear off. So I'm all about uh, making sure that people know who we are and what we are. I mean, if anyone's ever talked to me, they know my philosophy is I would rather be the guild that everyone knows what we're about than be the guild that has a dagger in their behind their back ready to stab people. I
Mhm.
say loud and proud whenever we have issues with other people and when we get it resolved. So, yeah.
Are you aware of any topics or anything that might be talked about, or is it kind of like loosey goosey, or is it hush hush?
Right now, the current topics that are in the lead for the votes between the guilds. Topic: Guild management. What do you feel is the largest challenge a guild leadership team will face in regard to running a guild in Ashes of Creation? Number 2, What are you looking for in a member? And number 3, how does your guild inspire cooperation, quash toxic members within your own community to build a cohesive team? What do you define as a red flag for toxic behavior from a member, and what do you do about it?
Okay, so we know why Anduin chooses a member. They like to PvP. So, anyways.
Yeah, I mean that's just one piece of the puzzle, man. Just one piece of the
I'm
puzzle.
just kidding. No,
But,
that's great.
you know.
When is that, by the way? You're gonna be doing it at
June 29th at 11 a.m. on Saturday.
June 29th, 11 a.m. on a Saturday. Okay, so make sure that you're tuning in end of the month. Probably the last Saturday of the month. Just keep that on your toes. If you're a GS member, we have it in the events. Please click interested on that event if you would like to participate. I know if you follow the Golden Feather Tavern, likely if you're a viewer, you're probably in their Discord. They have events listed there as well. Make sure that you check it there so that you can be reminded in due time. We will also be putting out social media stuff as well. So if you follow any of our stuff, if you go through anybody's Jamie's, the Burgunds, Cash, Loreforged, all that stuff, if you follow any of their stuff, I'm sure they have it somewhere. Go ahead and give yourself a follow somewhere, and be sure to tune in for that because that's going to be a lot of fun. And then I guess I don't really need to talk about.
We're kind of going in on 2 hours, Lloyd. You know?
Yeah.
We can use these next topics for next month, perhaps.
I actually think we covered them. I think we covered, like, we're not really focusing on balance, but like at all. But we kind of got like the finger in the wind, how we thought things were going, and kind of like where we think it should be for like certain classes and like how they have different playstyles and stuff. I talked about my vertical progression. I could go on for hours about this, but I think it's pretty basic. I think with this last Node Wars update, my worries of vertical progression being somewhat quelled simply because Steven was level 30 and he was not invincible. And I think the relative difference, that 15 level gap, wasn't as big of a gap as I thought it would be. And I liked that a lot. So I think most of my vertical progression worries are set to the wayside for now. And I think Intrepid is moving in the right direction based on what I've seen. So I'll let that rest because I could talk everybody's ear off about that. But is there anything that you'd like to say here or plug at the end of the pod, Anduin?
If you'd like to join the guild, please go ahead and check out our forum posts. We'll be linking in chat. And I do think overall, we're looking for people who want to, kick ass in the game, kill bosses, fight other players, build the best items. But we also want people who have a sense of humor,
Thank you,
who
Shay.
just want to have fun and enjoy the experience of, being in a community that is more than just something you go in for raid night. It's a family, a place that you truly feel like you belong and make friends in. That's what we were founded on. It's the idea that we want to build something that people want to be part of, not just for the benefits of whatever gear or whatever they may get or whatever experience in the game. We want to build something where, it's your online family. So, yeah. If you're interested, please DM me. I mean, you got most of my my Discord information, but yeah.
All right, Titan, anything that you want to say? I want to first thank you for being on Ashes of the Gray with us. Really enjoyed your input. Is there anything that you'd like to say at the end of here?
Yeah, it's been a pleasure talking with you guys and just bullshitting the entire time. Getting to get some really good information about all the different things that went on during the Node Wars event. I'll see all of you guys on the battlefield.
All right. We will be rating Jamie. He is still talking with Chibi and Vertec. And I'm going to be really excited to hear what they've had to say. So, with that being said, we'll rise again from the ashes of the gray the first Sunday of next month, which is July 7th. So if you have any questions or topics you'd like to discuss, please feel free to join my Discord, the Gray Sentinels Discord, whatever. They should be linked down below, and you can go ahead and submit your topics there. Once again, thank you all for coming. Stay golden, stay righteous, and as always, we'll see you next month. June 7th.
Have a good
Later,
one,
guys.
From the fount of every blessing of Gray Sentinels we sing. Raise our swords, our hearts professing honor to a legion king. Our emblem, the griffin soaring, guides us as we fight. Roaring strength and valor in each night's quest. Clothed in glory we are blessed. Gray Sentinels, armors, almighty Lord's chosen. In our ranks our spirits awake. With the griffins and the nail bound, let the chorus resound. Raise our swords and duty, bound by honor, bound by grace, fighting steadfast and true. In the world of fair, our sacred place, led by our Lord and doing cave on, under the griffin's sharp gaze, we stand. In battle for our valor proven, a righteous missionary moving. Teach us, griffin ever soaring, all truth, no matter the cost, guiding our blades, our hearts exploring. Just ways here to be lost, uphold truth, no matter the cost. Raise our swords, our hearts professing honor to our legion king. In battle fought our valor proven, our righteous missionary moving. With the griffin's emblem bound, let the chorus resound.